Okay, so this is going to be a quiet and happy rant about liars. Sort of a little bit sort of came about just because I was reflecting on some of the online flame wars, my blog posts about Jay Dyer, some of his like spurtastic followers that are just saying, "You lost the debate." And I was like, did I? Well, then why don't you just reply to the long ass blog post I made where I take apart every one of his points? And no one is going to respond to that. No one can respond to that because facts are facts. And the written word stays. So that also made me think about some of the stuff that, Vox has done. And that's what's happening with Jay Dyer. Like, slowly people are starting to trickle to my blog, and they're going to go and look at the Jay Dyer debate blog post, and those that I actually read through it, and I know that some have because I get emails, realize like, oh, I've had emails of people saying, oh, I thought you lost the debate. Then I actually read through that thing and I realized, oh, fuck, you crushed the guy. So, and that's slowly what happens. But you see, most people are actually pretty bad at recognizing liars for liars. There's a number of reasons for that, I think. One is, most human beings, even if they're liars themselves, will generally tend to assume that most people are telling more or less the truth. So there's that. And when you come across like really psychopathic, sophists who intentionally conflate concepts, ideas, and so on, it becomes quite easy to fool people. Now, if you're interested in that sort of thing, and the difference between an outright liar that says, "Oh, well, it's raining," when it's not, that's a clear-cut, simple lie. But if you want to see the approach that most accomplished, shall we say, liars take, if you go to the blog gfilotto.com, and I think it's the second post down now. There's a post about Anne Barnhart, and then there's another one about John Salza. Now, John Salza was a Freemason, and he wrote a bunch of crap about why deprivationism is not right and blah, blah, blah. So I've taken one of his writings and I've taken to pieces, step by step. And the intent there was to show, it was obvious there was a liar anyway, because you can't be a Catholic and a Freemason. It's not allowed, right? So whatever a Freemason has got to say about Catholicism is completely irrelevant because we know they're Satanists essentially. So, but that's not the point. The point was, the exercise was to take apart his lies one by one and show you the structure of the lie and what he does to confuse people and create doubt and sow discord and so on. So it's an interesting exercise to read just for that purpose. But I wanted to cover a couple of generic points about liars and lies and how you can recognize a liar quite quickly. And unfortunately, one of the things that you need to be able to do in order to spot a liar is be able to think rationally, which is almost a lost art, because to be able to think rationally means that you have to be able to think beyond just the simple binary on, off, black, white, Why do I say that? Because it's things about probabilities, logic, continuity, persistence of reality, persistence of truth in the things that a person says and does. And also the difference between what they say and what they do, and what they say they did and what they actually did. All of these subtle things, you can expose a liar pretty quickly, at least to yourself, in terms of noting, oh, that person is dishonest. I can do that fairly fast. Sometimes within seconds of meeting somebody, I can tell now this guy is not on, And there are multiple factors involved there. There is also an aspect of micro cues from physical stuff, but I'm not going to that level of stuff. I'm just talking about basic logical thought. And one of the principal points that makes a liar, especially when you're dealing with conflating issues, And that's why that John Salt's example is so good, because there are a lot of examples in there where he tries to mix two things, where in one sentence he will like try and blend two very distinct and different things as though they're one, creating a confusion between the two and therefore then diverting you from the truth. It's a very common and quite successful, unfortunately, tactic that liars use. But if you can think clearly, rationally, separating things that are distinct and taking them one at a time and then seeing how they fit together, if they fit together, that is basically how you can spot a liar. But in generic terms, in more general terms, it's the intent. The intent is what makes the lie. I'll give you an extreme example from my own experience, my own life. I used to, many years ago, more than a decade, I think now. Yeah, definitely more than a decade, maybe 15 years ago or something like that. I worked for a time for a company that had this guy who was a pathological liar. He really was. I mean, you'd ask the guy his name and he'd come up with something. It was really to that level. He just couldn't tell you the simple, honest truth about anything. So you'd think, well, that guy is just, somebody that I just would not associate with at all, right? I hate liars. I despise lies. I despise liars. We all lie. Everybody has lied at some point, and everybody lies probably in some way quite regularly on some things. But, I consider things like perhaps not speaking your mind out of omission. That is a kind of a lie, I do count that, but, in everyday society, if I literally spoke out what I really think, I mean, I'm sure they'd crucify me. I'm pretty sure they would just put me to death pretty quickly. But and I think that's true of a lot of people. But that aside, even in polite society, even making allowances for that, I truly dislike liars on every level, because I think it's unnecessary. I think it's a strategy that very weak people use and have to use because they're not strong enough to face the truth. The reality is human beings are pretty shallow, selfish, greedy, stupid, lazy monkeys to a certain extent. And if you don't believe that, and you are able to see the truth of human beings quite clearly, well, you'll have a rude shock. Now, if you, just going through life with your rose-tinted glasses and you were suddenly exposed to what's really going on in people's heads most of the time, you'd probably find it very difficult. I don't, because most of the times I can actually see half of what's going on if I care to pay attention, and the other half I can guess pretty accurately most times. And I've got quite a lot of life experience with a bunch of different people, situations, countries, cultures, relationships, so on. So I'm not, under any illusion about human nature, including my own. And that's important. You have to know your limitations. Like that great philosopher Dirty Harry says, man's got to know his limitations. Now, when it comes to liars, the intent is really what makes the lie. And let me carry on with that example I was going to give you. So I worked with this guy who was a pathological liar, and you would assume I would have nothing to do with him. And yet, I liked that guy. He was a good guy. Why? Because in the day-to-day lies that he spouted every day, if you asked him where he lived, or if you asked him, is he married? Does he have kids? Does he love pets? It really didn't matter what you asked him. You'd get a different answer every different day, because he would also forget what lie he told whom, and then it was just a continuous lie. Everything that came out of his mouth was basically false. But his lies were innocuous. He would maybe say a lie to make you feel a little bit sorry for him because he was unhealthy, or maybe aggrandize a little bit a job he did before so that you think better of him. But, they were, in the scheme of things, they were irrelevant. But when it came to the crunch, when there were issues that happened on the work, on the job, he actually went all out to protect the company, to protect his men, to protect me. He was like a general manager, and I was managing different sites. So he was essentially the guy I reported to. And, a couple of occurrences happened, which I can go in detail about one or two of them. I don't want to cause anybody any trouble, let's say. But on one particular job, we had to build a section of road that was near a building that somebody else had built. So we were doing some of the external works and so on. And we could build this in a number of ways. We could use tarmac or we could use concrete. Now the concrete would have been quicker, and we wanted to catch up on the program so that we look good and finish on time and everything. And so I asked the main contractor, or rather the guy, the project manager of the main contractor, who we were subcontractors to, whether I could use concrete to do the road, because it was faster, it would even last longer, it was better. And by the way, it was cheaper for us because it was, we had to use less men to do it, and it was faster. So the guy said, yeah, okay, why not? And so the day comes, I've ordered all the trucks of concrete. There's like 8 or 10 loads, I can't remember, of concrete. They're all getting done. We're literally putting down the last bit of concrete. And this guy, and he was a complete asshole, a liar, an idiot, of you name it, this guy had it, And he was a short little fucker as well. So he comes up there, all pissed off, as we're doing the last load, and he goes, "Who the fuck told you that you could do this stuff in concrete? I'm gonna have to get it up." And I just looked at him and I was like, "You told me 3 days ago." And he was like, "No, you're gonna have to redo it again." And I know myself, so I turned around and I just walked away. Because where are you going? And it's just fucking leave me alone. And he stayed away. Then I went to pack my stuff. I called up the pathological liar, who was the guy I reported to, and I said, "Listen, I'm going home." And he goes, "No, why are you going home, Joe? What's up, Joe? What did you do?" I said, "No, I'm going home because that lying little piece of shit dwarf that's on this site, remember that I told you 3 days ago that he said, okay, we can do it in concrete and we're all happy because it catches out." He goes, yeah. I said, "Well, I'm doing the last load," and this prick walks on and says, "Who told you to do that?" And he's pretending like he never spoke to me about it. So I don't want to say this guy's name. He has a funny name, but anyway. So he goes to me, No. Don't worry. You go home now. Don't hurt anybody. Go home. Just, And he said that because the third day on site with this company, a guy attacked me. There was, blood everywhere. It was a long story. Anyway. And I said, "No, I'm not losing my shit. I'm just going home. I'm done here, man. And he goes, No. Just, it's okay. Go home. Leave. Don't worry. But do me a favor, please, I beg you, please come tomorrow. I'll have it all sorted out. You won't have to deal with that guy. Don't worry about it." I said, "What do you mean I won't have to deal with that guy? He's the project manager, the main contractor. If I see him again, I'm going to stuff him in a hole somewhere. So just, leave me alone." No, Joe. Please, I'm begging you. Go home, relax, have a drink, fuck your wife. I said, "I'm busy divorcing." "Okay, fuck your girlfriend, do whatever, but please come back tomorrow at 7:00. Please be on site. I promise you'll have it fixed. I give you my word." And I thought, this guy's word is like fucking, like a little sun in the sky sort of thing, clouds, just. I said, "Okay, all right, whatever. I'll be here tomorrow." But I just thought I'll come in, tell everybody to fuck off, and I'll go back home. I'm busy finishing up, and like packing my stuff, and this little dwarf idiot walks into the container and goes, "Where are you going?" And I swear I didn't say anything. I just turned and I looked at him. And when I turned and looked at him, he physically jumped back about a meter. I mean, he was standing a couple of meters from me, and he just like jumped back back out of the thing. I didn't say a word. I didn't move. I just looked at him. He jumped back out. He said, "No, okay, no, I'll talk to you later when, just go for a walk. It's okay. Bye, thanks." And, and he ran off. And I don't know what my face looked like, but, in that moment, I didn't even have a conscious thought. I just started to look in his direction. Anyway, I go home. Next day, I come on site. Now, there's a little preamble to this. When the guy told me that I could do it in concrete, it was just the two of us. Come back on site next day, and here's the big man, my so-called manager, standing next to the dwarf. And, it's like sort of like Obelix and Asterix type of thing. And I can see that the little guy, the project manager, he's all like downcast and looking, all up, kind of beaten down, And I woke up there and I'm like, "What's up?" And I'm literally just ready for the first word to come out of anybody's mouth so I can tell everybody to piss off. And my manager goes, "It's all sorted, Joe. It's all sorted, like I told you. I was there when this guy said what he said. I was there, I remember, you remember, I remember, it's done, it's dealt with, it's in concrete, it's all done, And I was like, "The fuck's he talking about?" It was just me and the project manager guy, My manager wasn't around. He wasn't even on site. He was nowhere to be seen when we had the conversation about using concrete instead of tarmac. I was like, what? What the hell? The genial thing that this guy did, he just said, he lied, so I'm just going to make a bigger lie right to his face. I mean, it was just the two of them when I arrived on site. So they'd obviously discussed this just between the two. It's like, I would have never in my life even thought of the concept that you just walk up to another human being and tell him to his face that you were there when he said something when you know very well you were not even in the vicinity of the location. It's just like, what? But somehow made the other guy agree with that. I was just like, what the fuck? I'm in fucking bizarro world, And this guy did that a couple of different times, protecting the company, protecting me, making sure I, didn't lose my shit and twist somebody's head off their neck or whatever. I wasn't going to, because if he had been a really big guy, yeah, maybe I would have lost my shit. But he was such a small little man, I couldn't even, really think about bitch slapping him. But anyway, so it's just like, what the fuck? So the intent of the man, he was a pathological liar, but the intent was good. And that made him, overall, somebody I'd happily have a drink with, shoot the shit with. Because he's a funny guy. He talks a lot of shit and nothing that comes out of his mouth is real, but he's a good guy. On the other hand, somebody that is professional, efficient, good at his job and all that, but lies to you. And I've encountered that too in my previous life as in different jobs. A guy that knew what he was doing, and he would tell you one thing to your face, and then send an email with a different thing on there, presented in a different way. And that guy, I'll punish that guy. I'll go out of my way to now you're gonna pay for that. And so intention is really important for you to grasp. Then there is mental capacity. Is the guy lying, or is he just too stupid to know any better? Now, there is that saying, don't ascribe to evil what stupidity will allow for. But I also think vice versa. Don't assume stupidity when it's evil intent, because if you make the mistake of assuming that somebody is evil when really they're just stupid, you're not really gonna suffer any bad consequences from that yourself, as long as you keep your distance. No, they're evil, they're stupid, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you assume they're merely stupid but have good intentions, and in fact they are evil, then you'll get fucked. Then you'll pay for it. So be cautious. I'm not saying treat everybody like they're evil demons or whatever, but if you're gonna err on the side of caution, it's better to think somebody's evil rather than just stupid. And very, very often they're both. Evil people are often not very smart, because if you think about it, perhaps in worldly terms, short term, being evil and remorseless and whatever can make you successful, but I've never met one of these people that's like happy with their life, genuinely just enjoying their time. There might be, I'm not saying there isn't, I don't know, maybe Soros is like, eating babies and laughing all the way to the bank and being really happy about it, but I doubt it. I don't think Hillary Clinton, who's another baby eating freak filled with demonic, I think she's a human shell. I think it's just a sack of demons and snakes in there. But, I don't think she's happy. I don't think a person of that sort actually understands the concept of happiness. They understand just greed, power, envy, that sort of stuff. So if you choose evil, I don't think you're necessarily what I would call maybe street smart. You might be very intelligent. You might be genius IQ level evil fucker, but you kind of missed out on the basic common sense that tells you, it's more important to your quality of life rather than what you think is important that ultimately is ephemeral. So anyway, that's my thought on it, and I do suggest, if you're interested in understanding how to think more clearly and disparately, that you learn logic, that you learn statistics, that you learn things like set theory, percentages. These things should just be like in your DNA for you to be able to pick up on things automatically. And if you do that, a good exercise is, if you read newspapers that have like shocking stories, like this, Corona Chan virus or whatever, read the stories, look at the statistics, look at the numbers, and then understand, is there a reason for all this panic, really? It's manufactured panic, So once you understand sort of percentages, statistics, basic mathematics, basic logic, and you're able to think, to differentiate disparate thoughts, it should be a lot easier for you to spot liars. And intent, of course, matters. Now, there are a lot of people that are not necessarily bad people, but they cannot think logically, they cannot think dialectically, and their emotions carry them away. And they will then say some bombastic bullshit, won't be able to back it up, and then have to backpedal, which they don't want to do, so they double down on lies. That is a loser's game. And I'm seeing it even with people that I've known for quite a long while that are just getting really upset in this particular instance with the Jay Dyer video stuff and the blog post to it, and the people that are now reading that blog post and going to some of the followers of Jay Dyer and like, hey, you're wrong about this, and they're like poking them. And then I've even been accused of sending trolls my way. No, I haven't sent any trolls to anybody. That's just, I honest to God haven't done any of that. But people just assume. It's also interesting to see what people assume, because their assumptions are often a projection of their own psychology, And if their assumption is that, oh, you've sent trolls my direction, maybe that's what they're like. That's what they would do. I have no need for that. Certainly when it comes to people like Jay Dyer. I mean, it's there. It's on the blog. It's in writing. And you want to argue, go write it. Go write a refutation in writing. That's it. I don't care about it. But it's important to have things in writing. And I made a comment on Social Galactic that, like, for example, Vox Day has done this a lot. He's written The Irrational Atheist. He's written SJWs Always Lie. He's written Jordanetics. He has written some books on economics, which I have not read. But, he has basically taken down liars and people who are, I wouldn't even give them the benefit of the doubt of saying that they're just wrong. They are intentional liars, and expose them. And at first everybody says, Vox, you're wrong. I mean, even the Dread Ilk, like 85% of the Dread Ilk are like, Vox is just crazy. Jordan Peterson is such a great guy. And I'm like, just read what Jordan Peterson has written. It's just fucking, the guy is insane. And at first everybody like assumes that Vox is just an evil, crazy man. And then you wait a year or 2 or 3, and then people are like, oh yeah, I knew it all. It was just like, it's obvious now. Yeah, well, it's only obvious now because somebody stood there and held the torch up, told the truth. regardless of, how many people told him that he was wrong. It's like, no, facts are facts. So keep that in mind. And, I welcome anybody to take apart any of the things that I've written. If you think you can, if you think I'm lying, if you think I made shit up, prove it. Go for it. Open season on the Kurgan. Go for it, So, yeah, that's about it. And just remember, the surefire way to defeat liars is with unrelenting, unremitting, unforgiving truth. You just keep hammering with the truth. It won't change them, but everybody around you eventually picks up on it. Even if they don't at first, eventually picks up on it. So there you go. And I strongly suggest that everybody, there is a bit of a resurgence of Christianity in general, of Catholicism specifically, if you're following my channel. But, there was a Pope, Saint Gregory the Great, I believe it was. And I didn't know this until recently. I saw it on Anne Barnhardt's latest post that apparently said something like, even scandal is preferable to suppression of the truth, which has always been my belief, which is why I run afoul of quite a lot of people, including clergy sometimes. Valid clergy, I'm not talking about the fake ones. But truth is the truth, man. And it counts, it matters. So I hope that you can take some little inspiration from this and just be a little bit more forthright in everything you do. Good night.